Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 7 of the Daughter Dearest podcast. I'm Simone Knego,
And I'm Olivia Knego.
and today we are going to be talking about backyard adventures. And so I have my phone on. Can you believe that?
I know,
Ari
I was
calls.
about
I
to
have my
say,
phone
she's
on.
always on me. Do not
Oh,
disturb, do not
well,
disturb.
it is on Do Not Disturb, but because I have you guys in a way that you guys can get
Emergency
through no
contact.
matter
Yeah,
what.
dad and you always call through my do not disturb. It's very annoying.
I'm putting it on airplane mode. There we go.
Oh, that's petty.
Anyways, okay. So on today's episode, we are going to be talking about backyard adventures. And sometimes I think like these things happen to everybody, but
No.
okay, so maybe not. But like I was talking to a friend of mine the other day and she's like, only you, Simone, only you.
Well, just think about all the stories that we have, like that have only happened to us. Totaling a car because the rat ate the interior. The guy literally said he'd never seen this happen
Yeah,
before.
okay, you're right. So I don't know. Is that making me feel bad about myself?
And it's
No,
like,
not
why
really.
why does this happen to us? It's like it doesn't happen just because there's like six kids.
Well, I don't know. Part of it, I think it is because there's so many of us. So there's m many more opportunities for chaos and ridiculous things to happen. And then when you
Always
add four
chaos.
dogs into the mix, this is what happens. So the reason we're talking about backyard adventures is I had a great adventure
That's a
three
nice way
nights
of putting it.
ago. I'm sorry.
That's a nice way of putting it.
I know, a great adventure. It was
I would
not
just like to
great.
add that I don't have a backyard here. I have a lovely view of the streets. So I miss grass. I was in Central Park today, and that was really nice. That was like my backyard, and I'm sure there's crazy things that go on there, but I tend to avoid all of it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's crazy things that lots of crazy, probably crazier things than what happens in our backyard. But okay, so the story from the other night. I put the dogs out, and usually they're pretty quick to go out and come back in because they're homebodies, just like the children. They like to be inside. And so three of them came back and one didn't. And I was like, oh my gosh, where is Sage? So
Paige
now
is the
20,
youngest too, so
yeah,
you
I mean,
kind of
she's 2, but she's
she's
a puppy
two.
still.
Oh
Yeah,
my God,
she's
I thought she
2.
was like 8 months.
No, she's 2.
I'm
Okay,
so bad with
way to
years.
keep up.
I'm like
So
16 in my head still, so
well, and I'm making myself older. Anyways, back to the story. I um so I go out there. It's 20 minutes have gone by now, and I'm like, this yard is not that big, so I have to be able to find her. So I walk through the back, and I walk down to our seawall, and I hear gushing water, and I look down, and I see this pipe that is broken, and so of course my mind goes to that Sage fell off the seawall, broke the pipe, and is somewhere out there in the water, and it's dark out. And so now, like, I'm completely panicking, and I'm screaming for your dad. Rob, you got to come help me. He's like, what?
and I know
Like,
the scream that you would do. It would free. He wouldn't get it because
no,
I love
yeah,
you, Dad, but he doesn't. I don't like. It's like a boy thing. They don't get like the change in the tone of voice. But I know exactly the way you would say his name, and that would send me into panic as well because it's happened before, guys. Like this
yes.
isn't the first time something crazy's happened.
So I get him to come outside. I'm like, I think she fell in the water and the pipe is broken and we need to stop the water and I need to get a flash. I'm getting flashlights to try to look in the water for the dog. And as we're doing that, all of a sudden she walks up to us and I'm like,
Where have you
what
been?
the heck? Where did you just come from? And okay, it's not like she can tell me where she came from, but so we go in the house and we have to shut down the water to the entire house because we can't fix the pipe. Guess what? Duct tape does not work for everything. Certain things it works for, it does not work for this. So
Yeah.
it was like a hose. It wasn't just like a trickle of water. It was like a fire hose.
What's that one ad? The ceiling ad. What's the one
Oh
I'm
yeah,
talking
when the whole thing falls through. Yeah. I mean, it was very loud and it was a ton of water and I can't wait to see the water bill. So we had to turn off the water to the entire house. And as this is all happening, Millie is coming home from a lacrosse game. So she walks in the house and I'm trying to tell her about the dog missing. She goes, "The dog's not missing, so why are you telling me the story?"
about?
Okay, thank you. And so she goes to walk up the stairs, and she gets to the middle level of the stairs and she starts screaming. And I was like, what are you screaming about? She's like, there's something on the stairs. So I walk up the stairs, and sure enough, there's something on the stairs. I think she thought it was a rat, but it wasn't. It was a baby rabbit. Ah, okay. That was part number one. And so I pick up the rabbit, and it's still alive. So I'm thinking, okay, where did it come
What do
from?
you
Right.
do?
So I'm sorry.
That would have been my first response is it's still alive. What the fuck do I do?
Yeah, what do I do? Well, I knew what to do because this is not my first rodeo saving baby
With dead
rabbits.
rabbits. Yeah.
So then she decides to keep all the dogs in our room and wait there until we sort out what's happening. And all of a sudden she starts screaming again. And she's like, there's another one. There's another one. And this time, this one was in our male dog's mouth, and he would not let it go. He would not let it go. And finally, I mean, it took like a lot of convincing for him to let go of it. And of course, that one did not survive. And it was like really sad. And so in the meantime, I'm like trying to figure out, what do I do with the dead one? What do I do with the alive one? And there's a animal hospital not too far from us that takes in wildlife rescue. So I was able to bring the alive one there. But in the meantime, we realized that not only did he kill the rabbit, they must have jumped in our bed with the rabbit because there was blood all over our bed.
Oh my
Okay, we also
God.
now have a house with no water. Okay, and it's 11 o'clock at night now. So
Millie
basically,
post lacrosse game. She probably smells.
well, yeah, so we're like,
And there's dead rabbit blood.
we're like, go bathe in the pool or the hot tub. You have a choice tonight. That's all you got. Which, hey, it rinses you off. It doesn't clean you, but it rinses you off.
People have been
And
doing it for years.
yes, I mean, for years, people didn't bathe very frequently. So, hey, it's not the end of the world. I mean,
Exactly.
but the end of the world was the blood in the bed.
That would
That
have been the end of the world.
so
I would not have
disturbing
been
to
able to
me.
sleep. I'm like, did you guys end up sleeping in your bed that night or did you pick
Well,
one of the kids' rooms?
we laid towels. We got rid of the sheets and we laid towels down on the bed.
I would have just been like, sayonara, I'm sleeping in someone else's room tonight.
Yeah,
You have
well,
like you have a horde full of empty rooms and empty because like obviously Jacob, Emma, and I don't live at home. Not like they just like have tons of guests over all the time, so they have tons of guest rooms. No, they're just like my childhood bedroom.
well, okay. So my thought process was, this room's already dirty. I'm gonna have to really deep clean it tomorrow. I don't want to make
That's not
another room dirty. That
that's
was my
fair.
laziness.
Were they covered in blood? The dogs?
No, because it was a tiny. I mean, the baby rabbit was like
Yeah, I don't know how
4
big a baby
inches.
rabbit is.
Oh, it
Like,
was so tiny. It was really sad.
oh,
Anyways, that was heartbreaking. So I buried the baby rabbit, and then I took the other one to the wildlife rescue, and it worked out really good because the woman was there from the like she does all the animal transporting, and she's like, "Oh, let me just check it out real quick. Oh, it's fine. I'll take it down to the wildlife rescue." I was like, oh, "Okay, at least I
that's
saved
good.
one." Millie didn't want to hear anything about it because she was like, "I am so traumatized by this whole thing. Like, don't tell
But
me what
and
happens."
as Simone or my mom mentioned earlier, this is not our first rodeo with baby rabbits. For some reason, I don't know, rabbits in general probably aren't the smartest creatures, but they
I
tend to
agree.
make their nest in the worst place possible. Like when she was texting me about this, she was like, "Why would this mother rabbit pick to nest in a yard full of four big dogs? Four big, like hungry dogs. Like Cody, our male dog, he eats lizards all the time. Like it's he acts like we don't feed him. Like no, he just eats lizards for
He
sport.
likes lizards. He can't help
Yeah,
it.
but I remember, and I have like a seared image of this in my brain. One of the mom rabbits, she made her nest in the middle, like not hidden by anything, like plain like lawn of grass in the middle of the lawn. And of course, the lawn guy didn't see her. So we walk out, and I don't even know. I think Cody spotted him again with us. We're bringing them
Yeah,
outside for a walk,
he likes
and
to
there's
go.
just it is like a massacre out there. And this, I guess, this doesn't count as backyard adventure because this is front yard. But
Yeah.
I don't remember. Did we take those ones in as
Yeah,
well?
two of them survived. I think there was four total. Two survived and two you didn't want to look at. I mean,
Yeah, like
yeah. So, I mean, it's never ending. So that was my excitement for this week. And I was like, yeah. And she built the nest in the flower bed in the backyard with four dogs.
yeah,
And
the flower bed is somewhere they go all the time.
yeah, they're always
I
in there. So,
love to jump in there because that's where Cody finds his lizards.
yeah. And obviously now his rabbits. So,
Oh, so gross. He acts like he's like this beast of a dog. Like he's spoiled. He lives on the water. He gets his like hand fed every day, cookies.
Oh, I know.
He sits on a couch, guys. He sits on the couch.
He can't sit for real. He's like a Great Dane. He's really big.
He's huge.
His back legs are really long. So in order for him to sit, his front legs would pop up. So he literally backs up to the couch. His front feet are on the ground and his butt's on the couch and his back legs are up in the air. That's how he
People think
sits.
it's so weird.
You know,
And for us, like it is weird. Like it's genuinely weird. But
again, it's our family
yeah,
kind of weird. Fits
like
right
getting
in.
back into
Yeah.
the backyard. So I had the amazing privilege. Well, now looking back now, it was a privilege of growing up in the water. For me, growing up, I was actually terrified of the ocean, and that fear has kind of faded. The gorilla one is still strong. Oh my God, this is a side point. Jack was laying in bed the other day, and I'm just looking over his phone, full gorilla. Like, how dare he? He's watching like a scene from Planet of the Apes on his phone while like, no, so rude. But yeah,
Love
I was
gorillas.
we grew up on the water, so we saw dolphins, a million, and manatees. Not as much manatees anymore. Um, I think because of like climate change. I honestly don't know, but dolphins all the time. And the dogs, back to the dogs, they love the dolphins. Like they, and to the point where we've definitely gotten like noise complaints because of the dogs barking, and it echoes through the canal at the dolphins. And the dolphins, they love it, and they're much smarter than the rabbits. Okay, they love to torment the
The
dogs.
dolphins are so smart. The dogs hear them before they see them. So, as soon as the dogs hear them, they
Oh, they
start
pounce at the
howling
glass
and they
doors. If
jump
they're
on the
inside,
glass
they'll open the
doors.
doors for you.
Yeah. Yeah, Cody can open the door. He knows how to do the sliding door and he knows how to do the door handle. He can open any door you put him into. He's very sneaky. Uh, but yeah, when the dolphins come, and then of course they let the whole canal know that the dolphins are here. So I'm sure
Well,
it
and
drives them crazy, but
yeah, because it definitely gets the other dogs on the canal riled up. Like once in a while, you'll like hear some other dog barking in. It's like, oh, it's a whole choir out there.
yeah, they get each other going. But the dolphins are hilarious because they'll swim up and down the seawall and you see them just like staring up at the dogs. Like they love it. They
Oh,
have so much fun.
it's like
And
the theater.
yeah, and the dogs are barking like crazy. And I always think like, okay, jump in. Let's see what happens
Yeah,
then. I
one
don't
of
think
these
they'd be
days, one of
barking
them will.
anymore. Well, one of them will probably fall in after being so ridiculous as they run around. Um, yeah, so I mean, like that's always fun. And that happens pretty much on a daily basis now.
Yeah,
I mean, there's always a dolphin, and I think they come for fun. I think
like
they,
I think they know now. I don't think
yeah.
our canal is like the most popular for the fish, but it is like the dolphins will love it.
Yes, I mean, because they just want to come visit our seawall to see the dogs. It's really ridiculous. But okay, going back to water in our yard, you know, again, with six kids in a pool, there's always some excitement.
So I don't know if this is a normal thing. In Florida, everyone has a pool. Well, I know that's not a normal thing. It's
Not
just in Florida,
everyone, but
most, I would say like 80% of the population, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. A lot of people have
I
pools.
would,
Like,
yeah. So, and it's pretty common to put your young kids into not even swim lessons. What do they call it? Um,
I can't think of the name, but they do it when you're babies so that you learn to flip yourself over in the water. You learn how to get to the and be you're able to float and then you can learn how to get to the steps as you get older. But they do it, it's called I think infant swimming research or something like that.
yeah.
Where they but they do it in they start with they obviously they're trying to teach them how to swim, but the big thing is to float so that you can survive. And towards the end of the program, they kind of throw you in with your clothes on and your shoes because obviously it's different being in water with heavier clothes and
Yeah.
shoes. And, I don't know.
And
It's like as a parent, it was traumatic to
I
watch.
don't know if, yeah, it's true. I don't know if you did this with the younger kids, but I think I did it, right? Or was it
Yeah,
just,
I didn't do it with the younger kids.
which
Jacob,
is,
I did it with Emma. You and Emma, actually, we did a different kind of program.
but we still were swimming young.
Right. Yes. Oh, yeah. You were
And
swimming
that
really.
was to avoid having the pool gate around the pool, which we eventually put up when we adopted the younger kids. Which was like the biggest day ever when we finally took it away. It was like, oh, we actually like have a
Yay.
view in the backyard now. That's not just like a crusty little black gate.
Yeah.
Um,
It was pretty gross.
but in true Rob fashion, he loves to see if what he's paying for actually works. So
That's a good way of
this
putting
was,
it.
yeah, I think this was right after your knee surgery. Um, and I was like one or two. Was it knee surgery?
Yeah, it was after my knee surgery. You
So
were
she was
too.
laying in bed, and I was supposed to be watched by Rob. Hi, Rob, I love you. Just like you have great stories. It's not my fault. Um, and I'm playing outside with the dogs. I think my dad is just sitting on the couch, but we have glass windows so you can see into the backyard. And for somehow I was playing with the dog, throwing the tennis ball around. The tennis ball gets into the pool. And I was like, yeah, like I can go and get it. No, I can't, but whatever. So I get into the pool and immediately start like drowning. Immediately, essentially. And Rob's just sitting there on the couch, like, oh, I wonder if she's gonna save herself. I wonder if she's gonna do it. And then my mom is freaking out. She runs out after her knee surgery, jumps into the pool, saves me. Thank you, Mama. Afterwards. And when you asked Dad, what did he say?
Well, I said, what the heck? Like, why didn't you just go grab her? He goes, well, I was waiting to see what she was going to do. And I said, she was going to drown. That was
Like,
what she was going to do. And he's like, well, isn't she taking those lessons? I said, she's not far enough along yet, obviously. So,
yeah,
you
like,
know, and I really messed up my knee after that. It's
yeah.
not smart to go running with, running after you have knee surgery. But what was I going to do? Like, I was like, he's really sitting there waiting to see, I'm going to see what she's going to do.
Well, and
Really? Come
he
on,
was literally just sitting there.
yeah. But, I saved you. You're welcome.
Yeah, that was definitely, oh, thank you. Definitely something growing up around the pools. Was the worry always if the kid was going to fall in. I know one time when we were on the way to school and it was like Ari's first day of school ever, and we thought he had fallen in the pool. He was fine. He was just hiding behind the curtain somewhere in like a very deep corner, but it was always a concern, and especially with Noah, because that man just sinks. He will just sink to the bottom of the pool. He is just so dense, which is
Yeah.
probably like what the diet of like chicken nuggets does to you. I don't know. Maybe some research needs to be done. But yeah, we can
Yeah.
all swim.
And there were two experiences with Rob watching Noah. Oh my God, we're beating on Rob again. We probably should stop on Rob. We'll move on to a different topic after this.
Oh well, the next story that I want to bring up is a Rob story.
Oh boy. Yeah, this actually might be, maybe we should change this to Backyard Adventures to all about Rob in the backyard.
We need to have him on one time to like
I
redeem
know.
him.
Yes, he is an amazing person. He just gives us really good material, and
And
you
that's
know,
honestly, I live for the bit in the life, and I every bad experience I have, I think of it. Oh well, at least I have a good story now.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
definitely, it's like a great bit. Like, but okay, so yeah, there was two times where Noah almost drowned while Rob was watching him, and I did have to jump in both times to get him on those two. Like, what are
because
you even
Noah just
looking
would
at?
not float; he would sink.
Yeah,
It was yeah,
yeah. So, and do you remember when Ari was little? The first time he went in the pool, he was like so excited to get in the pool. He was, 4.5. It was right after he came home. He was so excited to get in the pool. And so he jumped in. He had no idea how to swim. We were in there, so it wasn't like,
yeah.
concern. And he literally sank to the bottom while smiling the entire time. Obviously, I picked him up and then he was laughing. I was like, we actually have to move your arms and legs so that you don't do that. Like, that's not what you're supposed to do. You don't
Yeah,
want
I
to
know,
sink to the
but
bottom.
you know,
If you want to, you can do that on purpose, but not
well,
like, you can hold your breath and sit underwater if you want to, but you don't just, jump in
yeah.
without your arms and legs moving. So,
The
uh,
pool, I think we talked about this on a previous episode about like sibling fighting, and how you can just like go back to normal. The pool was definitely one of those things of just like was someone being mad at someone and just forcing their head under the water, and like 5 minutes later, like you do it back to them and it's fine.
yeah,
Or
it
like
always
the
stresses me out.
wedgies.
Yeah.
I feel like Jacob used to do that to Noah all the time, give him like a pool wedgie.
Yeah. It was nonstop, but looking back, it's funny now. At the time, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. You guys have to stop." So
Yeah, but we
another
wouldn't
funny,
actually have let any of us drown, probably.
no, no. I mean, we were always watching. It just was like, okay, if you're watching, you should be moving. Another funny
Yeah.
pool story, and then we can go on to more stories about Rob. But
Oh, we could take a break from him and talk about the Ari story.
well, I was going to actually talk about the Benji story
Oh,
first because
that's a
that
good
was one of the
one.
funniest things. So, my sister and her family live in Switzerland, and they came to visit I mean, they've been here many times, but when I think their son was 18 months or 2 years old, something like that. And he wasn't potty trained yet. And so he was in the pool and you could tell that he had to poop. And so Michelle got him out of the pool and they're trying to get him over to the bathroom and he wasn't having it. So literally he just like pooped right on the patio. And right after he pooped, Noah comes running up and pees on it. It was like Animal Planet. It was
Yeah, it
like
was honestly one of
protecting their
those moments.
territory.
It was one of those moments. Like a lot, we had a lot of moments growing up. I was like, God, I really wish like we were the Kardashians and some of these things were filmed. That
Ugh,
was one of them. That would have gone viral for
yeah.
sure.
It was hilarious. I was like, okay, it's disgusting, but also like
I cannot believe that
I
just happened.
really, I really think he was marking his territory. Like, you
That
can't
was
poop on
so
my patio. This
weird.
is my patio.
Like what?
I'm gonna pee in it for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell the Ari story.
That
It's
one
a
for me
stressful story.
was very, very scary. Ari used to love to fish, and I think this, and he still does. He just doesn't fish on the dock anymore. He fishes when he goes out with his friends. And I don't know if he actually enjoys it or if he just enjoys going out on the boat with his friends.
I
Um,
don't know if he enjoys fishing anymore, honestly.
yeah, but I think this is definitely like one of the reasons
Yeah.
is growing up on the water, we always had fishing poles, and either if the bait was pepperoni or like leftover frozen shrimp, like sometimes we had live bait, but very rarely did we actually make the effort to do that because it's messy and gross to me. But Ari had a friend over and seawalls, and I don't know if this is the case everywhere, but the seawalls near us are covered with oyster beds and they grow out pretty far. And this was like a freak incident is Ari was fishing with a friend. I think they caught something and they're pulling it in and he tripped and fell and like sliced his foot open on the oyster bed. And that's like a huge bacteria concern. So that was, and it was the middle, it wasn't the middle of the night, but it was pretty dark
It was
out.
dark.
It
It was
was
dark. He
super
was,
dark. So you couldn't
yeah.
see how bad it was outside. But you just like, that's the first thing you have to do is like, how deep is it? But also, like the oyster bacteria can give you a huge infection, especially with the red tide in our area. You have to be very careful.
And the thing about it was that from the top of the seawall to where he landed, it's about 6 feet. So it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a small fall. And to get back out of there, if he could have swam around the dock to get to the ladder, but that's not what happened. His friend actually somehow pulled him
Yeah,
completely out of the water. Like, I don't know
pulled
if I'm
him up.
sure it
I
was
don't know if it, I don't know
shock.
how he did
You know,
it.
one of those moments where,
Yeah,
they talk about how your adrenaline and you just have that moment of strength, but he did. He literally pulled him up. Not even his chest wasn't even scraped up. Like he pulled
yeah,
him straight out.
yeah.
And I'm
Oh,
upstairs in
great.
your room, right?
I think so.
We were talking and Millie comes running in and says, "You have to go downstairs. Ari, Dad needs you." And you're like, "Oh, let's keep talking. Dad doesn't really need you." And then she's like, "No, Ari's hurt. You have to come now. You have to come now." And so, of course, we run down the stairs and Ari was completely in shock. He was like, "I'm going to lose my foot. I'm going to lose my foot." And I look at it and it's like the bottom of his foot is just pulsating. Psh, psh.
Yeah.
And so we had a couple of towels. We wrapped his foot up in a towel and Rob carried him around to the front of the house. Obviously, we were taking him to the emergency room. And so he was having him sit there for a second while he got everything that he needed to take him to the hospital with. And I called the friend's dad and asked if he could come pick him up, that we had to take Ari to the hospital. So Rob got Ari in the car and left to take him to the hospital. And I was waiting for the friend's dad to come, and Olivia and I were on the driveway. And it was like
It was
a
like,
bloodbath.
yeah, I remember taking the hose and hosing down the driveway. That was a really freaky one. And because of like how much blood there was. Usually I'm not great with blood, but like I can pull myself together sometimes. That was a bad one for me.
Yeah, that was bad. It literally looked like something was slaughtered
But
on our
his friend was
driveway.
like a huge lifesaver there. Like
Yeah, he
he
really
probably
saved me.
avoided like tons more infections by not swimming in the water.
Yeah.
And I actually happy ending on that is I feel like that's when your friendship with the Holden started because
Oh, that's funny.
the
Yeah.
doctor on call is one of their good friends now.
Yeah.
Or the orthopedics, that's what he is, an
Yeah, he's an orthopedic surgeon.
orthopedic surgeon on call for that was ended up becoming a great friend, and his wife is my dentist. So
Yeah. Yeah. And, the crazy part was so we get to the ER. So Rob gets there first, obviously, and they do x-rays, and you can see there's a piece of the oyster shell embedded against the bone. They did another scan that showed that the tendons were just mush. So
gone.
he couldn't even move his little the only toe that he could move was his big toe. He couldn't move any of his little toes. And Ari is very athletic, and so it was like a huge concern. We're like, okay, what do we do? obviously the first concern was get the
Is he gonna
oyster shell
walk?
out of there, get the pieces out of there, clean it out as good as you can. And it was a really hard injury because typically when you have something like that, you would just leave it open to because you worry
Hmm.
so much about infection. But because the tendons were all messed up, they had to reconnect as much as they could, and they sewed it up, and then they put a cast on it to keep them immobile. And each week we had to come to the office. They'd cut the cast off, they'd check for infection, they put the cast back on. Oh, it was like so traumatizing. They had to have a drain in for the
That
first
boy is
bit.
resilient.
Oh,
No, he has
he's
had
had so
crazy
many
injuries,
injuries.
and that he still walks. He still plays sports better than I could ever play sports.
Yeah, the toes completely came back. I
Yeah.
mean, he
No,
didn't get
he's
an
it's honestly
infection.
crazy. Like
Yeah.
Guinness World Record book for how many injuries, and he's still like a functioning human being.
And injuries from different things. It's not like
Oh
all
yeah.
one thing. It's
There
like,
was probably like a major injury for him involving like his foot, legs, or shoulders every single year of like elementary and middle and probably high school that I can remember. And he's still fine. He still goes back and plays sports every year. Granted, hoping it doesn't happen this year.
yeah, well,
Um,
we actually he just got an x-ray yesterday and he's good, at least for right now, because he hurt his wrist and we're like we wanted to make sure he didn't have this specific kind of fracture. And he doesn't, so he can finish the season and then he'll get an MRI because whatever he
oh
does
great.
isn't gonna make it worse. So yeah, so
That's
that's
good.
good news.
Yeah.
Um, okay, the other thing that really happens on our patio is a lot of grilling. So we have the regular grill, we have the big green
Green egg.
egg, and the funniest part about the big green egg is that I bought one years and years and years ago, and my husband had no idea what it was. He thought it was a planter, and he was like, "Why would you get such an ugly planter?" I was like, "It's not. It's a
And I would
grill."
say he had that was his midlife crisis. So, like some midlife crisis, it's a divorce and younger woman, some is fine cars. His was barbecuing, which at first was a curse, but now it's like such a amazing thing because he's become really, really good at it, in
Yeah,
my opinion, at least.
he's
And
very good.
like I eat here, but not as good as I eat back at home. And I can just say, oh, I want ribs. And then I'll be like, okay, done.
Yeah. No, he loves that. He loves to grill, smoke, all that kind of stuff for you guys.
But in the beginning, it was a learning curve. I remember it was like regardless of the injuries that happened, I remember the smoked fish that he made maybe the first or second time, and it was inedible. It was so bad. He was like, "Oh, I guess you don't smoke fish," and I was like, "No, you don't."
Not that kind of smoke. That would it
No.
tasted like dirty. Oh, it was gross. And then the first time he made brisket, it was like a rock.
But
But
now is so good.
now
Like
he
I
can
want
make
to emphasize
everything.
now it's so good.
He's like the guy who will watch the grilling videos and learn
Yeah.
all about it. And he's
Well,
very
yeah, I'll just be
particular of
like,
his
"Can I do this with this
temperatures.
thing in my kitchen?" And then he'll immediately know the answer. Like it's
Yeah,
kind of great.
yeah. No, it's really good.
But there
Um,
hasn't been without failures. Speaking of like technical failures as well, I can't remember how many times he's burned off his eyebrows.
yeah, several.
And you know what's
Because
good though is because guys, you don't have really strong, fierce eyebrows to begin with, so it's like kind of okay when they burn off because it's like, oh, it's fine. Like you don't notice too bad.
yeah, it's
Like with
not like he
me,
has
like
super
oh my
dark. Yeah,
god, it'd
yeah.
be something.
You'd need to pencil yours on. Yeah. He's burned the hair off of his arms too. It's
And
this
a
whole
little
thing
bit
where,
off the
especially when
scalp.
you open, oh yeah, in the top of his head, a green egg, you have to burp it. You don't just like open it because then it
And
just,
you
the
tend to
flames.
forget that after like a couple glasses of wine.
This tends to happen at Thanksgiving quite
Yeah,
often.
because Thanksgiving for us is the day of drinking and then eating. So you start drinking first.
Yes. Well, yeah, I drink as I cook because that's what I do on Thanksgiving, and he does too. But it's like the reminder of you got to hydrate, not with wine. You got to hydrate with water, and then you can have some wine. Yes,
Yeah.
it's we're learning. In our 50s and 60s, we're learning how to handle this.
Yeah.
Crazy. But the best story was the year I took Olivia to college. So obviously she was going up to New York City, and the quarantine was in effect there where they had to quarantine for 2 weeks. You couldn't take a flight in, obviously, so I had to drive her up. And the school was open, the dorms were open, everything was still virtual, but she really wanted to go to meet new
No,
people. And she was right.
I think it was
Yeah.
the best decision for
Yeah.
me to go.
Yeah. So it actually was a really nice time. I was just finishing writing my book. So we rented this little guest house off of someone's house that had, it was one bedroom and had a little family room and a kitchen and a bathroom. And we were there for 2 weeks. And it was, we wanted to be out of the city because we wanted to be able to go outside. So I
Hmm.
mean, we couldn't leave the property, but we were able to sit outside, and they had a little lake in the back that we could walk around, and they had deer and turkeys. And it was really,
That's nice. It
it
was
was
nice.
really relaxing. It was really nice. And so then I brought her to campus after 2 weeks, and I was allowed to come in. I think I had 2 hours. I was allowed to
Yeah.
bring stuff in. And that was one of the craziest things about driving through New York City. There was
Well,
nobody there.
you just drove through now and told me how stressful it was,
Oh,
but when we drove through then, you could just like park wherever you wanted.
there was nobody. I mean, really, it was so empty. And so, yeah, this week it was not empty, and driving was very stressful, but I did it. So I drop her, get her moved in, drop her off, and I leave. And so I stopped in Virginia on the way. And then from Virginia was another 16 hours drive. And the reason I stopped in Virginia is because I didn't leave her place until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was getting to Virginia at like 9 p.m. I didn't want to stop somewhere later than that. So the next day, I leave early and didn't really think about the fact that nothing is open. So drive-throughs were open to get food, but you couldn't go in to use the bathroom. I
Yeah.
tried 3 rest areas. They were all shut down as well. Everything was blocked off. And I'm like, I'm going to have to go 16 hours without going to the bathroom. So I made it into a challenge. I was like, ooh, I think I can do this. I'm going to make it 16 hours. Now, for any urologists out there listening, no, it's not a good idea to hold
No,
in for that long. I know it's bad for your bladder, but I didn't really have any choices unless I just wanted to pee on the side of the road.
which I would have peed on the side of the road.
Well, you probably would have, but I wasn't in the mood for that. I was like, I made
Yeah,
it
you
into a
have more
challenge. I'm gonna
class
make
than
it
me.
home. So I and I make it. I get home and all I'm thinking is I have to pee. I have to pee. I have to pee. And I walk into the house and Millie screams, "Dad blew himself up. Dad blew himself up." And I'm like, I just have to pee. That's all. Like, what are you talking about? Okay, of course, peeing went out of my mind because I was like focused on this. And then I smell burnt meat. There was no meat. That was Rob. He smelled like burnt meat. And he's standing there putting potatoes in the oven. And I said, "What are you doing?" And I can see all the hair off of his arms are gone, off of his legs. He's got huge blisters on his legs. I was like, "What happened?" And he's like, "Well, I need to finish cooking dinner." I said, "I think you're in shock. I think you need to go sit down. We can order takeout tonight. It's okay." He's like, "Well, I wanted everything to be just right for when you got home." I was like, "Okay, well, it's not. You were on fire, so why don't you go sit down?" At the same time, my phone rings, and it's a neighbor from across the canal saying, "I heard an explosion and a man scream, and I think it was coming from your property. Is everything okay?" And I said, "Actually, I don't know if everything's okay yet. I just walked in from driving for 16 hours, but I will call you back." So I sit him down and I'm looking at everything, and I call Holden, same
Yep.
doctor, who's a trauma surgeon, and I said, he's like, "Tell him that the burns are non-circumferential, so which means that the skin will be able to expand, because the concern is if you have a burn and the skin can't expand, that's when you get into trouble where they have to open it up." So
Hmm.
um, so I'm showing him, so now I'm FaceTiming him and showing him the burns. And I mean, blisters like 3 inch, 4 inch blisters, like massive things.
That's ridiculous.
And oh, it was like very traumatic. But so he said, okay, he's going to be fine. Now it's okay to laugh at him. He's like, "How the hell did he do that?" And I was like, "Well, he put on the grill, he turned on the gas, and then didn't turn it back off because he turned it on and said, 'Oh, she's not going to be home for a couple more hours, so let me just wait.'" So that thing was a bomb. So he went to
Yeah.
light it and it blew out of the
We have to get a new grill.
counter. I'm sorry?
Did you have to get a new grill?
Yeah, we had to get a new grill.
That's
It
what I
blew out
thought.
of the counter, and the flames came out the bottom from underneath and the top. So that he got the
Well,
arms burnt, the legs were the worst. And I think he's really lucky he wasn't wearing like any kind of
man.
athletic pants because I think the fabric would have just stuck to his
Yeah.
legs. But yeah, that was pretty traumatic. And so we ordered takeout that night. And so then the next thing that happened was one of my friends so I called the woman back from across the canal and I said, yes, everything's fine. Yes, he did blow up the grill, but he's going to be fine. A few injuries, but not horrific. And so another friend calls and she's like, well, I heard about the incident. How's Shish Kebab doing? So now we call him Shish Kebab when he's grilling because,
Oh,
you
that's
never
so
know when he
funny.
might barbecue himself.
Yeah. That's so funny to me that that happened. Like how it's just an only Rob thing. It's only our house. Like, of course.
I don't know. I really feel like it has to happen to other people. I mean, maybe not all of these things, like rabbits and
But I think it's just like the commentary from like everyone else in the house, like Millie screaming, "Dad blew himself up."
oh yeah,
Like
she
that's
was like,
hilarious.
you know, and yes, I mean, it was probably an hour after I got home that I finally went to the bathroom. I was very proud to say that I actually made it 17
I
hours.
would have peed immediately. I'm not gonna lie. I would have been like, hold on. Just
Oh,
to...
when you walk into that where like, you can tell he's totally in shock and he's like
Yeah,
still
but
trying
he's
to
still
like,
putting the
bake
potatoes in the
potatoes.
oven. He doesn't know what's
I
good. I'm gonna pee.
know. I'm like, okay, it's okay. It's okay, my friend. Go sit down. Let's check you out. And that's, it's nonstop for us. Like it's, around our house, there's always something. I mean, we talked about the story last time about the squirt gun war between Millie and Noah and,
Yeah.
Millie hitting him square between the eyes and blood going everywhere. And
Yeah.
um,
We I think you ground them down, but we used to have shell stairs.
yeah.
And I was a clumsy kid, still am, but I was really clumsy as a kid. My knees are still covered in scars from just like tripping and falling and just like ripping holes into them just on the shell stairs.
Yeah. One of the most interesting injuries I think we had from the pool is Ari was swimming and it happened to him twice. He managed to come up and hit himself on the side of the pool, like right between the eyes and actually right
Oh
on the top of his
yeah. So
nose
he has
right
a
here.
bump
Like
on his
right,
nose bridge now.
yeah. And I was like, how could you hit just that one area? How is that one area bloody?
Oh.
But he did, and
Oh.
he did it twice. He did it twice, and so now he's got a scar there that
Yeah, like straight up.
yeah. But somebody's always doing something.
Oh, and there's always, I don't know if you finally got rid of the snake, but the last couple of times I've been home, my dad's like, don't sit in that specific chair. Don't like, there's just one round chair outside. Don't sit in that chair because apparently there's a snake that lives in it.
Well, there's a
That's
snake that
just a
likes
Florida thing.
to lay under the cushion, and Millie's like, you can't have people over if we have a snake. I'm like, well, we don't have a snake. Like, I don't know where he
It's
comes
not like
from.
a pet.
Oh, but so who knew that? So the other thing we have because we live on the water is we get rats. We haven't seen any in a while, but
Don't say
usually
that.
around, I
Don't
know,
say that.
I'm knocking on wood. Around the grill is
That's why New York City
obviously
rats don't scare me, by the way, is because they're nothing compared to the rats we get by the water.
we've had really gigantic ones. They're like, and that's what I think Millie thought was on the stairs the other day when it was the rabbit. I think she thought it was a rat. We've never had them inside the house, thank goodness,
Oh,
but
we've had them in the playroom.
outside. No, inside the house?
Playroom?
No, in the garage.
Well, I guess that's, yeah, technically that's part of the garage still.
Yeah, in the garage. But yeah, we used to have them around the grill all the time, even with the dogs. And it's like, why are these things not scared of the dogs? But we had the pest control guy. I was like, who knew? We put out traps at first, and I was like, oh, this is just inhumane. Like they just gross me out. So
Yeah, and then we have the sticky traps, and those are supposed to be like, but you can't get the rats out of the sticky traps. So a lot of the times what we do is we just end up throwing the rat into the water to
oh,
drown.
yeah, it was horrible. Let's not talk about that. We're gonna have like PETA on our case.
Okay, come for
Um,
me.
yeah. They no, so we stopped using that because I was like, we had that happen maybe twice. We had that. I
Yeah,
was like, okay, we can't do
it's
this
just
anymore. This
no,
is
it's like
this
so
is
bad. And
traumatizing.
then I've like stepped in the sticky trap before, and that is awful. Like
It
the
doesn't come
feeling of
off. I
no,
was like,
it's
whoever
so
created
gross.
that, it's not like, oh, it's disturbing. But so now what we do is we use like bobcat urine. Don't ask me how they figured this out
I don't know
or
why.
how they even get
Yeah,
bobcat
how
urine.
did I get it?
I know.
That's
I
my
was thinking about
question.
that today. I was like, and they hang these little vials around, the backyard with bobcat urine, or they spray it, and it seems to keep everything away. Like, and you don't have to kill anything. So I'm like, okay, this is a really good thing.
Yeah,
But I was like,
the rats get like, I just remember the tail alone on
oh,
one of was like this big, and I was like,
how many inches? Because for people who are listening,
oh, I don't know how many. I'm not good with inches. Tell me.
probably like 10 inches.
Yeah, like
I
a
mean,
10-inch tail.
yeah,
It was
the
gross. So New York City
massive.
rats have nothing
Yeah.
because they probably never totaled a car for interior damage, and our rats have. So all they want
We
is the pizza.
we
Pizza
also
rat.
had the the one day Cody found the baby rats. I'm sure they were probably up in the tree and they fell out or something. I don't know. And he was bringing them to me and they didn't die. They were like, so I just put them out front where they couldn't get, again, I don't want to kill anything, but rats are to me are gross, but I'm not going to kill them.
Do you
So,
remember? This is about dead animals. That time a hawk came and dropped a fish
oh,
into the chimney
was it a fish?
or
I thought it
something.
was
Oh,
something
maybe it was a
hairy.
rodent.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
I
something
just remember you had
hairy.
to climb onto the roof with like a stick and like flick it off.
It was, yeah, so it ate what it wanted to eat and it left the remainder on the roof. And then, like, a lot of it, the way it was plucking the fur off, it was like flying into the water and to the pool. And I was like, oh my God, I can't imagine anything more disgusting right now. Like,
Yeah.
there's dead animal parts flying everywhere from the hawk having a feast. Um, yeah, it was pretty gross.
Yeah, I just remember you having to climb onto the roof because it like the way it positioned itself was like right near the chimney. So you could, the smell was coming into the
Yeah.
house. It's awful.
Yeah, we get our little share of stuff here. You know what we don't get is we don't really get squirrels. I think that those are the only
Yeah.
ones that stay away because of the dogs. They're like, we're
Yeah.
not coming near you.
I hate squirrels.
You do?
I don't know why. I just think they're so stupid. I found something that like a lot of the reasons that oak trees exist is because squirrels like plant the acorns and like forget about them. And you know, that's like a great thing, but it also just like pisses me off. Like, how could you just forget about your food?
Well, because they collect stuff. They're collectors, you know?
Ah,
They've got to like save it for later. And then maybe they got distracted. Squirrel, squirrel, they got
yeah,
distracted
Jack
and
today
they
said I'd be a
got
really
it.
good squirrel.
Yeah,
And I
you
said,
would
yeah,
be.
you're probably right. I'd be a great
Yeah,
squirrel.
you would be a good squirrel. You get distracted a lot. It's pretty good. Um, But yeah, so I mean, I'm curious to hear like other people's stories of like, do they have these same kind of ridiculous things that
Yeah.
happen in their yard?
Is there a
And
lot of wildlife interaction? Because we live in a very suburban area, guys. Like this is not like a rural, like we're the only one on our canal. Like the houses are not that far spread out. You can hear me screaming from my neighbor's house. So
yeah, I mean, they're not big yards, and it's enough to have a little bit of space on each side, and that's about it.
I'm
And
I'm just curious, like, how is the wildlife in other people's areas? I know like some neighborhoods near us, they get deer. We don't get deer, thank
I don't
God.
get deer, but we had a coyote on our side the other
Coyotes.
day. That was scary. I was like, those
You
are
know what though?
dogs.
I could not tell you what a coyote looked like.
If you saw it, you would know.
Yeah, but I might think like wolf.
No,
Okay.
doesn't look like a wolf.
Or like hyena. Escaped from the zoo.
It is not a hyena. Hello, we're in Florida, my girl.
Escape from the zoo. I'm being
Oh, escape
realistic.
from the
Like
zoo. Okay.
Madagascar.
Yeah, we're not, yeah, we don't have hyenas escaping from zoos here. Um, but yeah, I think that we do have a lot of weird things that happen to us. Lots of great backyard stories, lots of great other stories, but some really disturbing and some really funny things. It's always something in our house that the adventure never ends.
Never does. And the
Any
best part.
last words?
Um, no, I don't think so. I don't have a good quote today.
Oh,
So,
I was counting on you.
well, I can read it anyways. I haven't
Yeah,
actually
read
read it
it.
yet.
I like her. I like her
Okay.
quotes.
It's not a case of I am a procrastinator, something you are, but rather I procrastinate, which is something you do. And then it's just something you do, then you should do another thing instead. This isn't some personal condition or affliction or something that you have. It's not a fucking disease.
Oh, I like
That's
that.
a good one.
That's a good one, actually.
That
I mean, it has
hurts.
nothing to do with our podcast today, but it's a
No, it
good
has nothing to do, but
Don't procrastinate. You're not
Yeah,
a procrastinator. Find
you
something
don't
else to do. I like
procrastinate.
that.
Yeah,
I do procrastinate. I do,
but
but
it's not like a lifestyle, or it's not like a state of being. It's just a
right.
thing.
It's just I don't feel like doing this right now, so let me procrastinate.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us on our backyard adventures, and we will see you next week for episode 8. Thanks for
Awesome.
being here. And
Thank
again,
you.
check us out on all of our different social channels, Daughter Dearest Podcast, Simone Knego, Olivia Knego, and you can always check out my book, The Extraordinary Unordinary You. Talk to you soon.
Bye.